is the Leaders on Fire podcast.
Mark, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great.
Hey, dude, today is our final episode of the Prioritize Leader series podcast.
It's been a journey, man. And what is this last topic we're going to hit?
Well, it's a good one. It's a good one. Everything builds up to this last one, which we call profit. And specifically, we like to call it, at Leaders on Fire, purposeful profit.
Yeah.
And so as we kind of reflect on the journey over these last several episodes, we started with this framework, and we talked about how purpose is really like the compass for everything that we're doing. And we talked about purpose and how that leads into being able to invest into our people, right? When our purpose is clear, we're able to invest into our people and they get on board with our purpose. We're able to impact the lives of those people that we're working with. And then it leads into pace. And when our purpose is clear and our people are firing on all cylinders, heading towards that purpose and that vision, now we have the ability to throttle the pace and trying to find that place of perfect pace along the way, which is always having ebbs and flows, where we're able to challenge our team, yet create healthy work environments. And we know that when pace is off, it can totally affect our people in a negative way and can actually compromise our purpose. So we talk about pace right in the center, that third priority. But we also know that when our pace is good, it allows us to perceive well into the future, right? We have clarity of mind, we have clarity of vision, and we're able to perceive what's ahead. We're able to perceive what's going on in the lives of our people. And it leads us to the final priority, which is profit. And we talk about profit being the most important, but not the most significant. The most significant is the purpose. But we know that profit is important because without it, we can't achieve the purpose.
Yeah.
And we say where there is no margin, there is no mission. And so profit is the lifeblood of an organization. However, if we focus on that first as the priority, it's going to create all kinds of unhealth in an organization. However, if we follow these priorities in the right order, purpose, people, pace, perception, profit is the natural outcome of a healthy, thriving organization. So then the question which we're going to talk about today is, well, if you've created profit, what do you do with it? Do you consume it for yourself, or do you use it purposefully and intentionally? And we're going to get into a few of those topics today. So, Mark, tell us a little bit about your experience with the Prioritized Leader and kind of this profit piece specifically.
Yeah, well, I think profit, it's challenging, right? Because especially in the startup of a company, especially in the very beginning, I rarely talk to business leaders, entrepreneurs, and even in my own experience where that hasn't been a source of stress or anxiety or worry at some point, because without profit, what can we do, right, in those elements? And so it's really framing things in the right mindset. The thing that I like about the Prioritized Leader test when I took this is it actually gave me some clarity and awareness, some self-awareness that I didn't know was driving me. If you were to ask me when I was taking that test, what's driving you? I would go, man, purpose all the way. I mean, I absolutely believe in what we're doing and working hard to achieve and accomplish those things. But when I took the test, lo and behold, profit showed up at the top. And I was surprised at first. I was like, how can this be? What? And then I started thinking about it, and I was like, man, it's absolutely true, because my focus was on maybe what we didn't have. How are we going to get this? How are we going to be able to? And it was creating a lot of anxiety at times, a lot of worry. It was creating unnecessary stress. It made me want to work even harder. It made me kind of want to upset the pace even of what I was doing, because it was driving this need that I was thinking was this deep need for finances, that it was all about my control, right? And how can I possibly do and generate this? That it was driving the ship there. And when I got that awareness, and I was like, wow, I didn't realize that profit was driving that much of my fear and of the direction I was going, when I put it back into the place that it needed to be, right? And I realigned with purpose. It was amazing to see how the anxiety began to calm, the worry began to go away, because it was like, wait a minute, what we're doing, we're on mission, right? This is something that God is going to provide this. It is about working diligently. It is about making wise decisions, because profit is important. It's important to keep the organization going, and it's important for growth. But when it drives the ship, I feel this need to control it. Like, I want to be in control, right? And then when I'm not in control, then I feel all this fear and anxiety that comes along with it. And I lose sight really of the vision and the purpose and the meaning, right? And so it was really, that tool was very helpful for me to actually see, man, I had the wrong priority. And when I shifted it, it was unbelievably noticeable when I shifted that priority back to where it needed to be. And you were helpful in that too, reassuring me of those components. And I think that shows the importance of even having a team mindset and a team approach, because sometimes we are going to be feeling that anxiety and that worry, and we need each other to be able to kind of, okay, how do we get that right back in the where it needs to be, But yeah, it was really important and valuable for me to connect to that.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Okay, let's fan the flame a little bit and move into the next segment where we deep dive this a little bit. And we're going to talk about, in the course, in the lesson, I think we have a lesson specifically on God is the owner, and this idea of ownership versus stewardship. Talk a little bit about that.
When we look at God as the owner, it's a mission way of thinking, right? And I think it would really show benefit of even being able to share Leaders on Fire journey with this, right? And so even going back, share what was the vision and how you saw this, because you saw this before I did, right? Tell me kind of a little bit on that element with Leaders on Fire, the vision, and then I want to go back to a phone conversation that we had together on that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, this idea of ownership versus stewardship, I mean, it's definitely a mindset and a heart set, and just being able to hold things with this view that everything I've received is from God, and I'm here to temporarily steward what He's given me. And even when we think about giving, a lot of people think about, how much should I give back to God? How much should I tithe? When really it's like, how much is appropriate to keep?
Yeah.
For what I need, when the rest is really His. And so, this process started with Wildman Business Group, over the years, and really impacted how we viewed profitability and following the prioritized leader, and how we handled purposeful profit. And so that created that thought process within me with that company. And then years later, after we got into it, started a coffee company called Generous Coffee. And me and the other founders are like, oh man, this would be so cool to create a for-profit company that is able to generate profit to give away. And so, the three of us as owners eventually ended up going, well, if we're going to do this right, this should be a for-profit, and we should give all of the money away, and we shouldn't actually take any of it. If it's called Generous Coffee, how are we going to be generous? And so that started that model. And so as we've fast forward another several years, and God's given me this vision to start Leaders on Fire, I'm thinking, okay, I stepped out of what was secure for me, and over a multi-decade experience with our family business, very successful, and stepping out to say, okay, I'm going to create something new, and I'm going to use these skills and these abilities to create a way to impact lives for the kingdom and create a mechanism to do that. And we'll call it Leaders on Fire. And I also thought it would be the way that I would generate a good return, right? And so as I got into that process, I had an encounter with God as I was strategizing with Him on maybe what the future should look like, and felt convicted that Leaders on Fire should demonstrate exactly what we're trying to teach other leaders, which is that we are stewards. And so Leaders on Fire, it exists to impact lives, but we also exist to create purposeful profit, which is what we're modeling for those that we're coaching. And in fact, that purposeful profit, we've said that 100% of the profits will either be reinvested into continued impact with the organization or given away. There is no owner equity coming out of it. There is no, there's nothing coming out, for that purpose. And so 100% of that is going back into kingdom investment. And so it's truly set apart as His work. And, our team now has the privilege of stewarding what's His.
Yeah.
He's given us Leaders on Fire to steward for a purpose. And so, but again, it started with this mindset that God is the owner. He's entrusted these skills and abilities and knowledge and whatever else to generate impact in others' lives while generating income and profit that's ultimately his. And so how do we turn around and say, well, if it's yours, then it's your fruit. We're going to give it back to you to use however you see wish.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's it. And, you know, that's a concept that I've learned deeply through our work together, you know, because I even remember initially that phone call. We had this really energizing phone call because as we were deciding to work together, as we're starting to move in this, and it was just kind of clear that we had a pathway that was going to bring us together, you know. And I remember hanging up the phone and I was pumped. I was actually driving on the road, right? And then you call back and you mentioned to me, oh, by the way, we're not generating, you know, profit in the way that you think. You know, we're wanting to give away is what we're making. We want to give it away and want to continue to build the kingdom. And I remember being like, okay, you know, and we hung up that phone call and I was like, now that was a different way of thinking about it. And I had to just go through my mind and it finally was like, wow, that what we're looking at investing in is a true calling, that this is a mission. And it was the first time that I really kind of was introduced to this real true stewardship, trusting God for all of those elements and using profit as actually part of the ministry, what we're doing. And it was like, okay, when I was able to feel a real true connection to that, you know, and there's the sacrifice that we make to jump in and start this and do something great, but God has been blessing it and showing us in so many ways of how he's continuing to grow. It's been amazing. I even think about, you know, our church is going through a building program and the campaign is called God is Able. And the idea is that, you know, we're looking at raising the funds. We're looking at what does it mean for us to do this, and they want to do this with being a steward of God's ministry, steward of God's money. How do we do this and not have any debt at the end of it? And if we're lucky, we're going to be able to have a building project at the end. But the process is trusting God, that God is able to sustain us, that he's going to fulfill us, that there is a point and reason to why we're on this planet, part of this story, and that he wants to bless us with that, including the finances. When we have a kingdom mindset with the finances, God is the owner and we are just stewards. And just it's a radical and an exciting way.
Yeah, it's really
good.
freeing.
Yeah.
Well, and it actually is more motivating even to be that much more excellent in our work,
Isn't
right?
it? Yeah.
And so when you think of our workforces and in the employees that are around this idea and this purpose, they want to perform well. They like the idea of purposeful profit. They want to be excellent in their work because they know it's for a greater purpose. And so, you know, this isn't a gosh, I hope this all works out and I'm just going to sit back because after all, this is God's and he's going to give us the profit we need. No, he's equipped us with skills, abilities, intelligence, right? Tools. He's equipped us to create economy and economics and things that move our society forward in meaningful ways that generate returns, and that those returns are to be used for good.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't undermine. A lot of people think that maybe it undermines being excellent, you know, and then, oh, well, it's his fruit. Well, no, actually, we're called to be excellent.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, if we follow the first 4 priorities and we do them well and in order, we can trust that the profitability that God is desiring will be there.
Yeah.
And for some organizations, that might not be that much, and that's okay. For Leaders on Fire, maybe it's only ever just enough to sustain, you know, and give a little bit away. But it could also be something that he overflows the barn so much for that we can't contain it, and we're able to just bless beyond measure. There is no right or wrong answer in that, but the idea is that whatever profit that the Lord has given you, how are you using it purposefully? And we're going to work hard and be excellent in our work to ensure that we're doing our part as faithful stewards and trusting him to provide.
Yeah. Well, Drew, let's carry the torch for a moment, because we've talked about the depth and even deep dived into how we see it in our own organization. But on a practical utilization of it, as we you know, you just came back from an amazing kind of an example of how that can even be put into action. Would you be willing to share a little bit about your story?
Yeah. So this morning just got back from the Dominican Republic. We've been supporting a mission, a nonprofit down there for about 15 years. And, you know, and when I say we, I'm talking about our family personally, but also our family business, the Wildman Business Group. And, you know, when we talk about the purposeful profit, you know, our employees know that we're very purpose oriented, and we're also enthusiastic about creating purposeful profit. And we take what we call vision trips twice a year. We've taken hundreds of employees down to the Dominican over the last 15 years. And just like the group that we had down here the last several days, they were able to connect what they were seeing, which is a Christ-centered education in impoverished communities in the Dominican Republic. Like, they're seeing children that would otherwise have no access to school, let alone Christian school. So Second Mile Missions exists to alleviate spiritual poverty and physical poverty, right? And they bring those two together and create an education. And so it's powerful. There's 1,400 kids, that are in the schools. We've built multiple schools along the years, and our company has generated a significant amount of resources that have gone towards this mission down there. And so when we take our employees, they get to see, so if they're in their production facility and they're doing something maybe redundant all day long in production capacity, they know that every single one of those units that they're producing or touching is touched with love, because it's going to produce something for not only our own employees, because part of that give back is to our own team members through all kinds of programs that we have internally, but to the ends of the earth and out into the world. And so if they get the opportunity then to go to the Dominican and see just one of many works we're a part of, they go, oh man, I'm connecting the work that I'm doing to this amazing, miraculous change that's bringing light into a dark, dark place in the Dominican Republic that would only be possible through companies like ours, because we've provided such significant funding for it along the way. And so it is truly that is carrying the torch, because it's an example of an organization that has created purposeful profit and is using it to expand the light into the world, which expands light into the lives of our employees, because they know they're a part of something greater than just I'm going to work. They're going to work with a purpose, and it's generating purposeful profit that's making God's light expand throughout the world. And it's a really, really cool thing.
It's amazing, and it's such a great example of profit. When we're stewarding it and God is the owner of it, it has eternal impact.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the biggest concepts to understand, is when profit is put in the right perspective and we're stewarding it, it's going to impact your personal life. It's going to impact your family. It's going to impact your business. And again, the idea is that having profit isn't awful. It's actually wonderful. When God is the steward, the more even that we have is the more that there's a place of generosity and being able to give and make these internal impacts while we're here for this time being, right? I love that story. What are some practical ways, as we've gone through these priorities and we've landed on this last one, such an important one, fun one, the one that I've had to be really, the Lord has really addressed this and helped me to grow significantly in the way that I'm being able to see it. When people, or if there's businesses or organizations that this becomes intriguing to, how do we want to reach out? What do you think would be great for them to access, or how they can access this even?
Well, I mean, at the simplest, most practical, and probably affordable way is we've created this program called the Prioritized Leader. And it's a course that's available for purchase online. And it comes with this assessment that you've talked about. That's really robust assessment that shows you where your priorities line up with the recommended order of priorities. And it deep dives each of those areas, and even show if you're red, yellow, green in any of those priorities. Not only are they out of order, but how are you actually in thriving in those particular areas? And so then the coursework, it breaks down. So we've got multiple lectures under each topic, each priority, and robust study guides and workbooks. And so people can purchase this course, go through it individually, go through it with their teams, and I'm convinced that it's a transformational process. I'm convinced, because we've deployed these things for years in our company, and we've seen how this actually plays out. I'm convinced of it. And not only that, those that I've worked with personally on it through either roundtables or one-on-one coaching, I've seen how it transforms their leadership and their perspective on how they're leading their business. So that is a strong call to action. It's a call to action and a recommendation for those that have been following this podcast to take that step, buy the course, and go through the process. And I promise they won't be let down on that. And if you are, you can email me directly. I'm happy to talk to you about that. Outside of that, we've built this really robust leadership platform on leadersonfire.com that, in addition to the prioritized leader, has an array of leadership development programs that are specifically focused on, living all in with your faith, living and leading missionally, and taking people into places that they probably wouldn't venture on their own steady.
Right.
You can speak into that yourself, Mark, as you were, unpacking some of this content that you helped create. I mean, I don't know if you want to share a little bit of that or not.
Yeah, no, it's been amazing, hands down. And honestly, the content has caused the most significant, even spiritual growth in myself. And even every time that I continue to go through that content, whether it's through the round tables, working on the study guides, working through the content myself, even creating part of the content, like it is just continues to sharpen me and to really create a missional way of thinking. And even with the prioritized leader, that content has been rich. It brings a deeper sense of an awareness. And, I think for any organization, any group that is interested in these roundtables or us even facilitating them, it would be exciting to be a part of that process with them. I think that's been the other part that I think is so exciting is watching the aha moments for everybody else too, right? Yeah. Because it doesn't matter where you're at in the spiritual walk. You can be at the beginning of a spiritual walk and you can be incredibly mature in your faith, but the content causes everybody and meet you right where you're at to wrestle and grow in those particular areas. Yep. And the conversations that facilitates are amazing.
So, yeah, for sure. Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. That's good stuff. Yeah, and all this is accessible at leadersonfire.com. The content, reaching out to us for personal coaching, for team coaching, all those things are available on leadersonfire.com. And, we want to ask people to follow the Leaders on Fire podcast because we've got some more cool things coming.
Yes.
So we've got the Crucible series, which has been released all year long, and those series are available to listen to. We've got this Prioritized Leader series. And then the next one we're going to be releasing is on purpose and identity.
Yeah.
And so we're excited for that. So we want people to follow us and continue to be impacted by these conversations.
Absolutely.
Anything else you'd like to add, sir?
No, man. I think we've covered it and covered it well. So yeah.
Awesome. It's been a good journey.
It's been fun.
Yeah. All right. Well, till next time, man.
Till next time.